So Modern Warfare, not Modern Warfare 4, not Ghost 2, not Infinite Warfare 2, but just simply Modern Warfare. As we talked about yesterday in the video, I was recently out in Los Angeles visiting at Infinity Ward, and we took a look at, with a bunch of different other YouTubers and a bunch of different press, a little bit of the behind the scenes behind Modern Warfare. And while we saw just campaign stuff and general discussions with the developers about it and the project at large, it was something that we got some pretty cool information that I want to share with you guys here today, because I haven't seen the full thing, disclaimer. I don't think the trailer itself will go in depth as much about all the stuff that we saw here with this. It's probably going to be about 2 minutes 30 seconds. I don't know, this is pre-recorded, so it could be even shorter, who knows. But it is something that probably won't go as in-depth as the information we'll talk about here today, even if it just offers a little more insight. So first things first, a little rundown. Last week again, we did go out to Los Angeles. We ended up getting a brief glimpse at Call of Duty Modern Warfare. This included a press briefing about the game and some sit-down talks with the developers discussing the project, and then they showed off a few levels of the campaign, which was actually really pretty cool. We got a decent bit of time actually watching those campaign missions, and we'll talk about those in detail here at this, but truth be told, there's something else. And the final rundown in terms of information is that, truth be told, I'm not entirely sure how I wanted to go about this video, and still, as of recording this, kind of am in the same boat, because we ended up doing some vlogging, but up until whenever we had the opportunity to be at Infinity Ward, that's when we kind of didn't have as much vlog opportunity, just because we were so busy and so packed in with trying to get all this information in, be on time with this press briefing, and then the briefing itself lasted a few hours. So unlike previous DLC events, we couldn't walk around the studio all that much or get all that much vlog content. So I have all this stuff that is content before we got there for vlogs, and then afterwards it didn't really work out as much. So we'll probably put that at the end, talk about the information, because I'm sure that's what a lot of you guys are here for. And then if you guys want to see the extra stuff, and just for my sake, because I recorded it, I want to put it up there, because I haven't done that the last couple of trips that we've taken, and I've done some vlogging. So regardless, that said, it started out with our briefing. We opened up to a little bit of a brief intro cinematic, and this was something that may or may not be in the trailer. Again, full disclaimer, the full trailer itself wasn't finished whenever we were there. A lot of trailers, believe it or not, actually are worked on up until the last second, almost. It's not like every single trailer is worked on up until that very last second right before it's about to hit publish, like it's uploaded at 12:55 p.m. Eastern or 9:55 Pacific Standard Time, but it is something that there are revisions made, and it's worked on almost up until that last second. That's why I think it was 2 years ago now at this point, with World War II, the Zombies game mode that came out, that trailer was leaked a day in advance. But if you took a look at that leaked trailer and then you took a look at the trailer that was actually revealed, there were some big differences. So that kind of stuff was there. We didn't see the full trailer, but what we ended up getting was actually a little intro cinematic with a narrative voice similar to, but I don't want to say it was that war never changes, that iconic line, but it was in the same vein. But in this little cinematic opening teaser thing that we got, we do hear some comms kick on, and it was very similar, if not identical. I can't recall off the top of my head. We weren't able to record this, so I can't validate it or anything like that, but it very much so reminded me of what we had yesterday in the teaser, where we had that rustling and the radio communication. Our characters were walking through a forest at the dead of night, and so therefore it would match up where like the crunching of leaves and twigs and all could have actually been heard in that teaser itself. But then the coolest part is that we end up ending that off by a soldier turning around. You see the cigar, and it's none other than Captain Price. He says something, they drop their night vision, and it fades to black into just simply the name of Modern Warfare. So it was really cool, and of course, that is actually the reaction that was up on my Twitter and Instagram. If you guys don't follow me over there, by the way, links are down there in the description below. But that reaction that we started a promo as of yesterday was actually for that name reveal and everything that we just saw at that point. That was actually the only cinematic stuff that wasn't associated with any campaign missions that we saw or anything like that. But talking about the campaign missions, we actually saw 3. We saw one called Piccadilly, we saw one called Safe House, and then we saw one that was a flashback mission that was set in the Middle East, which, in terms of naming, I cannot recall for the life of me the name of that mission, but they were all honestly fantastic. The level Piccadilly that we saw was very simplistic and very short because it was a lead up to that mission Safe House. And if you guys have ever seen the Amazon TV show adaptation of Jack Ryan, there's one scene in that in which they're literally in France, not Piccadilly, but a different part in France where they're chasing down a terrorist, in which one runs away, Jack ends up pulling out his gun and focusing on them. And then in the background, you see the apartment explode and things like that. And it's very similar to that because they were apprehending a few terrorists, and then then a car drove off and exploded. So it was very similar to that. It blew up the entire street, and the mission Safe House was a direct follow-up to that, it seemed like. And then your squad is tasked with taking out those holding out in that safe house, and there are plans there for further attacks. And so it's a very, very close quarters, intense mission, in which, when I think about it back, it honestly is probably the most close quarters mission that we've had probably in Call of Duty ever. It might be a bold statement, but it is something where you're pretty much on top of your squad mates in that mission, and it showcased some cool different mechanics. Things like you could shoot down or push through doors rather than have to interact with them. There were things where the AI adapted to the environment a little bit. There was one scene where the AI would actually go underneath the bed and you'd have to shoot him through that. And so it was honestly a really cool display of some of the new features, mechanics, and all that kind of stuff, but also, again, just very tense, very real. That seemed like one of the focal points here of what we were being shown, so it would not surprise me if at least a part of that makes its way over into the trailer itself, to which maybe you'll understand what I'm talking about at that point. But outside of that, the only other mission that we ended up seeing again was that unnamed flashback mission in the Middle East. This ends up setting up some of the raw dynamic of the characters that we end up seeing, because we're working with, of course, Captain Price, probably Task Force 141. I can't recall off the top of my head if they ended up naming the task force that we were working with in Safe House, but we also work with a rebel group in that present time. But this flashback mission set up why they really became rebels here with this, what they went through in the Middle East 20 years earlier as very little kids. And truth be told, I don't know how much detail I can go into with this, but it was a very brutal mission. I'm talking innocent people being slaughtered, gunned down, gassed out, and things like that. There was one scene where you're pretty much playing cat and mouse, where you're the little girl and you're crawling around your house as a Russian operative is trying to get you, and you just repeatedly stab him with a screwdriver until eventually you steal his gun and shoot him. I know there were some leaks and discussions about things comparing it to No Russian and things like that, but I think that's where that might have came from, because it was a very raw, very brutal, and very honestly graphic depiction of everything like this, but it was also something that was still plausible. It was still something that is not removed out of the realms of possibilities when you think about, especially seemingly the given parallels between the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, though the timelines wouldn't match up for that to actually be the case as to what was happening here with it, but that seemed like it was the same sort of vein that it was going in. But it was raw, it was brutal, and man, it was something else. And from what our discussion said, it actually gets more brutal, as crazy as that sounds. So this game might be, again, one with a lot of shock factor. We only saw those campaign missions, so I can't tell you any more in terms of how likely that is, but if it's more brutal than that, there were definitely some scenes in that campaign mission that you were like, holy crap. Outside of that, we had a bunch of different talks with the graphics and the sound and a lot of the engine itself in terms of the game and development. And there's honestly some really cool overhauls that I'm excited to talk about here with this, and also that I'm excited to see in action, because what we ended up seeing in this little pre-briefing was a lot of single-player gameplay mechanics, and also from those cinematics and everything that we got for those campaign levels, you were thinking to yourself, man, that was actually really good. And even one of the developers at one point was, hey, just a heads up, that's not an in-engine rendition. That's in-game, that's real-time, the game is playing out like that. And truth be told, what we saw was graphically beautiful. I don't know if the trailer will do it justice today, but it was something when you saw that on that big screen, when you saw that actually, there were the water reflections and all that kind of stuff, there was the echo of the weapon audio street blocks away for whatever was happening. That kind of stuff was really impressive. One thing that was cool to learn was that if you guys remember a couple of years back now at this point, I think it was probably 2 years ago, the announcement was made, but it was announced that Infinity Ward created a second studio over in Poland, and it turns out that was actually so that they could end up doing major engine overhauls and major engine upgrades to what Call of Duty could run on. I don't want to say that it's a new engine, because I don't think that it is, and I don't feel comfortable saying that information without having that validated, but it is something that there was a definitive and very noticeable difference between the gameplay of, say, Black Ops 4 and what is coming up in Modern Warfare. It was night and day graphically, and also the big thing that stood out to me, because I'm a big sound guy, I've played music my entire life, I've done recording my entire life, and it's something that it sounded like a trailer, a cinematic masterpiece of that regard. If you think about how in previous years trailers have had much more booming audio in terms of their shots, think about that and then translate that into the game. Every single year, I've always wanted to see that booming audio, that stuff that really resonates, and there has been some improvements in the past years, I will say, yes, but this hit the nail on the head. It was something that it's definitely way better and way more in depth. Now, the next things that I will say here out of this, talking a little bit past the engine itself, past the gameplay experiences of those missions that we saw, honestly, the big things that it comes down to are, firstly, well, it's meant to be realistic. It's meant to be a real story of war, something that is graphic, something that is brutal, because war is hell. War is not something that is pretty roses and fields of flowers and things like that. It's brutal, and that's something that this campaign really looks to harp on. And I think that from what we saw, they're going to do a fantastic job at that. Might piss some people off in that journey to do so, but that's the price of it. And the final thing that I think I can provide some insight here on from that briefing is, why was it called Modern Warfare? Because like you, and of course like a lot of my friends, we all thought it was going to be Modern Warfare 4, just because, well, Infinite Warfare 2 was not going to happen, let's be real. Ghost 2 was unlikely. I guess it could have happened, but it was something that you just didn't really see them going back to it, because Ghost, while having a nicer connotation to it now, and looking back on it, it's remembered more fondly back in the day, it was absolutely torn to shreds. So Modern Warfare was sort of this follow-up that was easy, and of course something that would sell just based off the name. So Modern Warfare 4 seemed natural. But Modern Warfare, it's simply named that. And we'll discuss this more in depth come the weekend whenever we talk about where it really fits in the grand scheme and universe of things in the Modern Warfare story. But the big thing why it was renamed Modern Warfare is because, well, it's a Modern Warfare story. It's a story about modern warfare. Real, raw, pretty hardcore. But when you have things in the Call of Duty universe relating to Modern Warfare, of course, there are those characters like Price and whoever may be reintroduced if they are here within this trailer that came out today. Again, I only know of Price. I don't know anybody else, but it is something that kind of stuff was reintroduced, because you can't have a Modern Warfare story without that in the Call of Duty universe. If you ended up making a Modern Warfare with none of those iconic characters, I guarantee the community would lose their shit. But anyways, that's the tell-all here from this briefing that we had last week, where we got to see a little bit of Modern Warfare earlier on, but it is something that I may very well not be covering all of the bases. So again, I urge you to leave your thoughts and comments down there in the comment section down below. Drop me a question, because again, tomorrow I'm hoping to get an AMA up in relation to answering as many questions as I possibly can. Some of the stuff I literally just don't have insight to. Some of the stuff I might not be able to answer as directly, but it is something that I'm giving you my thoughts and feedback, what I remember. But if you guys have anything in particular, I may very well be missing out on some things that are smaller details I may have missed, or just general thoughts. That's actually one thing that I want to close on to. I thought this was fantastic. I think that this is bringing Call of Duty back into the way that it is going to be brutal, raw, and probably really fun to play. I am really excited to see where this goes here with this. And again, from how stoked people were about the game at the studio, what we saw in terms of the development of it and everything like that, I'm not going to tell you that it's absolutely amazing, but I'm very, very excited here for it, because what we saw was very promising. And one thing also to say, and I talked about this in a comment actually replying to somebody yesterday, but what we saw was the pure artistic vision of Infinity Ward. I know there's that whole thing of, well, why are you going to hype it up if it's only going to get destroyed by microtransactions and things later? What we saw had absolutely nothing to do with microtransactions or anything like that. What we saw was, again, simply the pure love child and project that hundreds of developers have worked on and poured their heart and soul into for the last 3 years. So from what I saw of that, untouched, untainted, and anything like that from a microtransaction and business model, it was fantastic. I loved what I saw, and I'm very excited here for this. Hopefully, Activision can get their head out of their asses in terms of business practices and not ruin it this year. But from what we saw, simply from what Infinity Ward presented and what they've been working on, untouched by anything else, it was fantastic. That said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. A very, very long video. Holy crap. I didn't realize we were talking that much, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Call of Duty Modern Warfare. That's going to be weird to say for a little bit, but regardless, hit that subscribe button. Follow me over on Twitter and Instagram if you guys are interested in staying connected outside of YouTube. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys later for a second video. Take care and peace. Yeah, maybe. I missed it though. You all right there, guy? You all right?
Wait a second. You videoing? Yeah.
Hi.
Tell everybody to drop a like.
Yes.
Subscribe. Turn notifications.
You heard the man.
Really sell it.
You heard the man.
You really mean it.
I have heat stroke right now.
Okay.
But you look beautiful. You look beautiful while you have heat stroke.
That really, wow.
Some terrible lighting here for this, but we're about to get going to Los Angeles here in the morning. I'm dropping off my car tonight and staying the night with somebody, so we'll be getting going on that kind of stuff in the morning. But man, I'm so bad with time management, okay? I had this entire planned out, like mapped out content-wise, like a week in advance, started getting my stuff done, and honestly, even up until like, I don't know, 3 hours ago, I was like, dude, I am golden on time. And sure enough, well, I'm pushing the button now. I wanted to be gone by like 7. It is now currently 10:30 or 10:03. So you do the math. I'm not the best at that kind of stuff. Dudes, we made it, Los Angeles, to see what is still I don't know the name, not yet at least, but the next Call of Duty. And man, oh man, I'm stoked to be vlogging again. Firstly, I'm terrible at this, so bear with me if there's not a lot of B-roll or anything like that or anything cool. But as always, little hotel vlog. We haven't done one of these in forever, so show you guys a little bit of the room we're working with here. But you come in and you start out here with a little bit of that doorway action, all nice and dandy and all that kind of stuff. You come in here, got a nice little bathroom. What's up, dudes? What's up? Nice little shower here. Let's make sure we're zoomed out because we weren't, so that's cool. And then you come over, got a nice old LG TV right here. Really looking real nice little desk setup. I don't think I'm gonna have much time or need to do work, surprisingly. We got the two beds over here. Nice little view out here as well. I'm pretty sure this door opens, but whenever I'm either just like terribly weak, also likely, or it's just straight up locked. It's got a lock on it, but I can't. You know, you can't work with it. But anyways, there's lighting. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna be looking at what is the next COD. Got a lot of our friends in town as well. I know a handful of them. I know that say Ink Slasher Corey. You guys know him probably from the streams and all that kind of stuff. We do a lot of do a lot of stuff together. We got Apollo, we got Prestige, we got Ace, I think Hollow and Jimmy or Chaos Silencer are here. We got Charlie Intel. We got the gang's all here. So gonna be getting going. Gonna be going to some dinner in a little bit, and might bring the camera along for some shenanigans, but not entirely sure. Don't like to be that guy recording at dinner, so we do some stuff before that, and then of course we'll keep you posting all that. But we're here. We're in LA. So today's the big day. We're gonna go see Call of Duty 2019 in a little bit, but first, we actually have like an afternoon event, which is the first time we've done this in a while. Like, actually, maybe even ever that we've had an afternoon event. So I'm gonna go catch some lunch, and I think a couple of the guys and myself are gonna go see John Wick 3. So to pass the time a little bit before we jump over to IW. So maybe keep you posted. Obviously, I can't film in the actual theater. I'll be kicked out for that, but we'll see how I can do. Where are we going, Corey?
Chick-fil-A.
Why? Why's that?
Because I don't know what it tastes like.
This man is crazy.
You need a dip in that.
You just ask for one of every single sauce?
All the sauces.
We need to get those. We need to get those reactions of the Canadians, eh?
Hey.
First suggestion, we got the spicy chicken sandwich, which I guess has pickles on it. Yeah. And a bunch of nuggets. And we got every single sauce. So by the end of this, I should know what the best sauce here is. So we'll start with the sando.
Thoughts?
The breading is really, really good. Breading is really, really good. You might want your food now.
So what was the consensus?
Really good. Best chicken nuggets I've ever had. Spicy chicken sandwich. I've had better at restaurants, but chicken nuggets, damn good. Chick-fil-A sauce though is where it's at. That's the final verdict.
Oh yeah.
Right there. 9 out of 10.
Ace, what about you? All right.
So full.
Yeah.
I only had 12 nuggets.
Hey, but it's good. Good stuff.
When the sun moves further away, it gets dark. Still be
What's your thoughts? MW4, Ghosts 2.
You already know my thoughts.
I'm just talking for the.
Modern Warfare 4. Modern Warfare 4. It was a little toxic there. I thought.
Yeah,
you
you were real toxic there, eh?
Ghost 2.
Feel real, like it wasn't
No, I'm
just
not.
kicking everybody's ass. I mean, he was taking
Oh my god.
Smiling boys.
Make sure you get all the best shots of shoulders.
Mixer.
Yeah. That's wild. Don't even think about filming.
We're all hoping for Modern Warfare 4.